This is Emma from Norwood. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. You can reach the studio at 513-212-6752.
Happy Saturday. My name is Chris. That's Melissa, and you are listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. Hello, Melissa.
Hello, Chris.
This is 91.7 FM, HD2, my favorite part, WVXU in Cincinnati. Once again, Out Cincinnati, a show in Cincinnati for the queer community. We want to kind of start today with a hot topic in a certain way of toxicity. What is this? Toxic
That's
people. Right. Toxicity.
Well, we want to talk about, we all encounter it. Everyone in the LGBTQ community and just everyone in general. Sometimes we have toxic people in our lives. And I found this really great article by Chelsea Jackson. She writes for hercampus.com. And she just went over, she talked to a bunch of professionals and wrote a very good article. So we will link that up to our social media page.
At Out Cincinnati, Facebook, Twitter, all the above. What
That's right.
is this article about? How does it say to deal with toxic?
Well, first you have to identify toxic people in your life. So some of the things that they point out are they're judgmental. So constructive criticism is healthy, but unwanted criticism and just picking on someone
just to do
it,
just to poke them in this.
That's right.
Mentally poke them in the chest and see how they'll react.
That's right.
Just to be a piss,
just like this.
Piss off
I'm poking you right now.
Yeah, but I'm sweating, so that's your demise. No, that is so someone who just bugs you just to bug.
That's right. And then another sign is they feed off drama. So drama.
Oh, I saw that at the bar
queens.
last night. I got it. Oh, okay. So what is feeding off drama? Just someone who looks for...
Basically, someone who wants everything to be dramatic. Like they want to live a soap opera life, and they get off on that, basically.
So like everything is, oh my God,
yeah.
The sky is falling.
That's right. Okay. Exactly. Third one is they gaslight you. So someone who continually claims that they never said something when you and everyone else knows that they did.
Okay.
So
they
that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
But we all know it did.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So that's another category. How do you deal with people that like that? I mean, not you, but should folks deal with people like that, or just kind of scissor cut them out?
Well, that is what she goes over in this article about. But basically, if it gets to the point where they only talk to you when they need something from you, or they flip-flop between positive and negative reinforcement. Mm-hmm. So if they're just constantly drama, maybe you should think about it's not like saying you have to like totally cut them out of your life. I guess it depends on how bad it is, but
crop them out a little bit.
Just a little distance. Like, for example,
Do you have something to tell me,
I'll
Melissa?
give you one of my stories. Yes, there was a family member. Basically, we got in an issue over a person we were dating. And so that became an issue. And I just, didn't talk to her for like a year.
And let me ask, was she the toxic one? And you didn't talk to her for a year? Or was she? Or
yeah, I felt like her behavior was.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
But does that article say that you're supposed to just not talk to someone for a year?
No, I mean, really.
And I'm not criticizing.
They want you to do healthy things,
right.
Give yourself some space. I think that's probably the extreme, or like cutting off someone completely, but they don't not recommend that if the situation is bad enough.
Because there are situations so bad where you're just like, this person is 360 degree, just like I break a sweat thinking about how they're going to act or how they're going to come at me, and you just don't have time for that.
And you're like, I'm out.
And I think real friends won't bring you through that.
Yeah.
To that.
So check it out.
And
maybe leave us an example of a toxic person in your life and what you did about it.
Right.
And again, what is our social media?
Aside, how do you deal with that? What's your most toxic, experience? And we're not talking about the Licking River. I at Out Cincinnati on Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. And for something, since we're talking about toxicity, something not so toxic. How do you feel about Tegan and Sarah?
I'm with it.
I'm down for that. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact.
This is Brant from Cincinnati. You can listen to Out Cincinnati anytime at outcincinnati.com.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati right here on 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati. This is Radio Artifact, streaming live at radioartifact.com. Hello, Melissa, once again.
Hello, Chris.
And who is this goose across from us?
Oh, he is the
Quite a-
fabulous
Michael
Chanak.
Hello, Michael.
Hey, nice to meet you guys officially.
Yes, and
On the air.
Yes, and
Welcome
and
to
through
Out
these
Cincinnati.
microphone coils. I love it. It's so great to sit down and chat. I love the hat. It's a little toasty here in May in Cincinnati.
You're a hat man yourself.
I am a black hat man. I love me some Frank Sinatra fedora hat action. Let's get into it, Michael. I want to know, from Northeast Ohio so many years ago.
Oh, gosh.
You come down to Cincinnati, you get a job, you get involved in the community. I want to talk about community involvement first. You come down to Cincinnati. We're not known as the most open to the LGBT community.
Sure.
How did you get started? Where did you go? Did you go to the church first? Did you go to the community center first?
There wasn't a community center then, as there isn't now.
Exactly.
All things change to remain the same. Actually, I came from Northeast Ohio for a job in the insurance industry in Milford, Ohio. And I lived in beautiful Goshen, Ohio for a number of years. And along the way, I did have a bachelor's degree in speech journalism, and I enjoyed that, but there was not much money to be made in insurance. And I also had a technical background, and I kind of got this idea that I wanted to do something with science, so I went to Cincinnati State and got an applied science degree. So that's the thing that led me to P&G in 1984, believe it or not. But you asked about community involvement.
Mm-hmm.
I got here in September of 78, and two things I did, because I actually also came from a very small area in Northeast Ohio. I was living along the lake in Painesville, Ohio. Not known as your gay capital, not even to this day. East of Cleveland, about 30 miles, snow belt. Nursery country. And I guess I was a kid that was 28 years old, and I wanted to see the big city. So first off, I went to the Golden Lions, which unfortunately closed a few years ago on Ludlow, and I met a cocktail waitress and drag personage, Peaches Laverne.
Because Golden Lions, for people who don't know, that was
the
bar.
Old school gay bar in
Right.
Cincinnati.
Okay.
One of them.
right.
One of them. Now, there are others that have come and gone, and there are many fond memories. I don't personally remember the Party Boat. I do remember Badlands and some of the others, but it was Golden Lions, and this person came up to me, and she said to me, my name's Peaches. You're cute. And so I had
I think I heard that line last week at the bar. Remember that, Melissa? Peaches, you're cute. That's the old...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, really a super person. And she was kind of known as the first hostess of Cincinnati. She was a great person. And just on a lark, out of boredom, I thought, oh, there's this potluck. And it was going to be for Metropolitan Community Church, and they were meeting in the basement of Church of Our Savior, 65 East Hollister, an Episcopal church. At least that's where the social was. And so I went there, and believe it or not, the social was canceled, but I kept the connection and started going to Metropolitan Community Church. They used to meet at Church of Our Savior at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. And the thing about it is, and why that's important about community, you say to people, well, gee, there was a community in the church at that time, and by today's standards, people are running away from churches and saying all sorts of things about churches. Well, the truth is, here in Cincinnati, a lot of gay liberation had its roots in the church, and particularly the Episcopal Church, Church of Our Savior. That was the place where all the radicals from UC were going.
Okay.
And that's
the folks who worked there, the teachers,
yeah,
the students.
right.
Okay, all the
trouble,
liberals.
all the troublemakers.
All the free speech people.
Yeah,
anyways,
exactly.
right?
And
Okay.
that is exactly how I got involved. There were people like Dr. Bob McNee, Dr. Larry Wolf. They're both passed now. They were in the geography department.
I'm going to ask you about Bob when we talk about Fountain Square. I love that little aspect.
Yeah. There's just all these.
I don't love it, but it's...
But at the time, you don't think about it when
Right.
you're in it. But that's how I made all the connections that served me over the years. And I I guess I just had an interest and I stuck with it.
And isn't that funny? And by the way, you're listening to Out Cincinnati. We're talking to Michael Chanak, wonderful person. It's great talking to you. You're talking about the church, and most people here, a lot of people, church, gay, LGBT, they hate me. The whole time I'm sitting there, they're damning me, and they've got my fate decided before I ever even sang the first note. That's great that you found.
Yeah, and I would say to anybody, please keep an open mind. You know, church is also a matter of community. It isn't always strictly some doctrinaire type of thing. You know, it's also about people, and there are churches now that we've seen come along, such as St. John's Unitarian, or I know that the Methodists have had a bit of a struggle, but certainly the local one, Clifton United Methodist, is for us.
Absolutely.
And you can go down the list now. So maybe church isn't your thing, but the truth is, a lot of these churches have a lot of GLBT people in them, and they support them, and they love them. And if you're looking for fellowship, you're going to find it. If you don't close your mind to the concept of all religion is bad.
Well, it's just like, I think I've been in church, and I'm at the end, and this person's going to come hug me and love on me. They're going to love on me. And
Yes, they will.
And what is that even? I'm going to love on you. That's such an abstract thing to hear. So for me, that's refreshing. Walk into a church, don't burst in flames.
Yeah.
Have an open mind.
And it was all caught up with, in a way, a kind of a queer theology, if you will, because after all, Jesus is not some sort of wielding, flower, all right? This guy is an activist.
He hung out with
the poor,
criminals, prostitutes, and you name it. And that was
All kinds.
a man of the real people, if you will.
Yeah, it saddens me sometimes when I hear the endless attacks on the church. I'm not here to defend all the actions over hundreds of years of the Catholic Church or this particular brand. That's not the point. The point is, if you have an interest in that sort of thing, not all of it is all bad.
Absolutely.
And I've heard of people not wanting to have their organization, like many of these churches to this day. Metropolitan Community Church would open their doors free of charge for meetings. They have a building right here at 4033 Hamilton Avenue. They would let groups meet there if they asked, but you get into this thing of, oh, well, it's in a church, we can't do it. Well, they're not going to be preaching. If a free space is air-conditioned and available in a well-known urban area, why not?
Right. They want to dole it out. They want to lend it out to people. So, let them. I want to ask you about P&G. And I know P&G, what year did you start at P&G? I know your first, it was a lab, you said lab kind of job.
Right. I actually was. The first 10 years of almost 20 was working in labs. Lab technician in the old-fashioned sense of the word, and that was also then products research. I worked in clinical pharmacy operations and finally in quality assurance. So I had a number of different roles over the course of almost 2 decades.
And what was the year you started? Because you moved down for insurance.
In 78, and I think I started there I think I said 84. I think it was 85. Talk about memories leaving. April of 85.
And I wanted to ask you one of the not neatest things, but as far as pride goes and being out there, even though it was on television for 3 nights.
Oh, right. You're talking about my meeting with Bob McNee.
Right. Why was it on TV for 3 nights? Was it because it was you or because it was Pride?
No, it wasn't because it was me.
Okay.
It was because at the time, Pride was still pretty shocking.
And what did you, just you and Bob kissed?
Oh, right.
Where you saw each other, hello.
Sure,
blah, blah, blah.
In those days, Pride was drawing 200 or 300 people to Fountain Square, so we kind of stood out, right? And, that was I'm not going to tell you there weren't gay people at P&G before Michael Chanak. That would be crazy.
Right.
But the truth is, there's no doubt about it. I was one of the first people that went in a very public way, both on public radio, WAIF, and of course, eventually on some of the local television stations, and then Pride. And they caught us kissing, and I guess that was scandal. That was news, right?
So you were outed at P&G.
I outed myself,
Or even though you probably were eating lunch with your fellow brothers and sisters and everything
They
every day.
didn't know before then. Officially, they did not know.
Officially, right.
Yeah.
And after that ball kind of got dropped, you were what was the, and there's a film called The Words Matter. It's got a longer title, but the Words Matter, and you can check that out on YouTube if you just type in Words Matter. I want to know, and the film talks about
what happened at that time, that day.
What day were you sitting in the office and you said, you know what, I can do something about this, and this is why this matters.
when I came back from the event at Pride in '86, that very first Monday, if it hadn't sunk into my head on the second day of the show, that was the third day, and I was
When it
back
aired
at
on
work.
TV,
It
okay.
actually aired 3 days in a row: Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. Unheard of. And in fact, one of my closeted friends said to me, "Michael, get your puss off TV. It's you're starting to age on screen."
Yeah, quit calling them up and asking them to
Yeah,
run
for
that.
Yeah. I was approached by maybe 20 or 30 people in my lab that day, and by and large, the reception was very positive. There were people like, "We love it. It's great." But the message was, you got to be careful. This place is so conservative, and it's going to be tough. And it was. Not I mentioned in the film some of the overt stuff, but sometimes just not fitting in a place where something like that is important or perceived as an important difference is tough. And along the way, within probably 6 months of being self-outed in the parade, I was transferred to a project that had some ties with the gay community. Now, was that coincidence? I don't know. Did P&G figure, well, this guy has all these ties to the gay community, maybe we can find some value in this after all?
Right, he might have a nice thick connection book, or who knows why. you know?
Yeah, and so it happened, and there was a product they were marketing, Paradox, which was an anti-gingivitis mouth rinse, but it had an indication, or I don't want to say an indication, it wasn't a formal indication. It had effectiveness for a common condition that people with HIV often had in those days before the modern protease inhibitors, and that would be thrush, or
Right.
you might know as a yeast infection of the mouth. And so Paradox had some activity there, and P&G had figured out through marketing, their stats, that the product was being consumed at an unusual rate in major metropolitan areas. And so they started to parse that data, and they discovered the off-label use for Candida, or yeast infection. So here's this guy, Michael, who has ties in the gay community. And so that kind of began the dance. There were a lot of different community leaders and also the HIV groups that I put P&G in touch with. And there began to be this dance to foster understanding and to build something. But ultimately, and the whole thing turned on, if you're going to sell a product to a community, then you really ought to be able to name that community. And it's really
you got to own them.
Yeah, you got to own them.
And that's it.
And those days, I think the community was a lot more political. This is a Michael opinion, whether it's popular or not. In those days, we were willing to protest and picket and to complain and carry on. And it can also be great fun, by the way.
Well, I was going to say,
I thoroughly recommend
just
to
the
any person out
outfits.
there, regardless of your age, get out there and be part of and protest. And the world's not going to come to an end, so somebody doesn't like you. Oh, well, that happens every day.
I have to say, I just on your Facebook, because we are Facebook friends,
Right.
I saw, and I keep saying and keep posting it, the pictures from the color ball
Oh,
with
right.
the HRC and those lovely colors you're wearing. I mean, you were just so pastel that day. By the way, you're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. I'm talking to Michael Chanak with Melissa here, and I wanted to, this film, The Words Matter, when they approached you at P&G and you think, oh, well, they know I'm gay. They know I have these contacts. Is it because of that? Is it not? How do you not feel like a pawn? And I don't.
You know what? It's an excellent question. That's a brilliant question. And if I thought it, I dismissed it because
I would too. It's good work.
It's kind of like
good work.
It's good work, and it's an opportunity to participate in something heretofore I wasn't able to participate in. I was a bright guy. I think I was. And here's a chance to use your resources and to do something that was important. No, I didn't have HIV, but I lost a whole lot of people.
You lost family. I mean, that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can't sit there passively and care about other people and not do something in your sphere of influence. And I knew those people, and they were the vibrancy of the core of the gay community. We lost a lot then. And I don't know that we've ever recovered from it.
And even if you don't know the intentions behind your boss, you know, if it's a marketing decision, you know, they're using you. Because I have felt that in my life. You know, people come to me for advice. Oh, you're gay, you know this.
Right,
or,
right. Here, you're gay, you're an expert on this topic.
What was Cher's, what kind of boat was she on in Turn Back Time?
Right.
You know, and I'm like, I don't, you know, it's just, let me look it up, just like everybody else.
A big one.
A big boat.
Brilliant.
And when I saw her in concert, she
With
said,
a lot of men.
With a lot of men.
She said, you know what? I'm 76 years old, or whatever it might be, and I can still fit into my Turn Back Time outfit when I saw her. Where can folks see The Words Matter, the film?
Well, obviously it's on YouTube, as well as, you know what, if you go to Great Big Films or Great Big Stories, their website, or basically really easy, just take The Words Matter and add to it P&G, you're bound to find a hit.
It's easy to find.
Yeah.
The easiest way I found it was right there on that website.
Yeah.
Do we have time for just one more question?
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, The Words Matter is the film. My question is, it's 2019. You told me you're almost whatever age.
Yeah, and we can admit to it on air. I'm going to be 70 in October.
You know, and my mother just turned 70 yesterday. I didn't tell you that.
Okay.
So you're about the same, you know, you're like my father's age. So my point is, it's 2019. I'm 36. What do you tell people who are my age and younger about the way they should get involved? Because when you did it, when you came down, it was a different thing. Is it still the same grassroots, or is it a different approach?
I'm not a psychic. I
I
don't specialize in card reading, but I will say,
how do I get involved?
That's right. How do you get involved? Sometimes you just kind of lick your finger and stick it in the air, you know, and serendipity. Yeah, that's really what happened for me.
Right.
Gosh, today you have people welcoming you into all sorts of, you know, GLBT and allied groups. You can pick and choose, you know, gosh, the last time somebody counted, there were 550 groups in greater Cincinnati.
We've got some people to interview.
Yeah.
I mean,
that figure came from
great.
the late Worley Rodehaver, who passed in, I think, 2014. He published the GLBT News. He had actually made a count.
Wow.
And so there's plenty of things out there. Just do something.
That is absolutely true.
Just get up and go.
You can find it. It doesn't take long to find a good spot for activism. And
and activism isn't, you know, people look at me and say, oh, well, you were that kind of activist, you know, in the streets or raising holy cane and knocking on doors. But activism takes all sorts of colors and stripes and letter writing.
Figuring out.
Yeah.
We were talking downstairs. It's a beautiful day. It's May. We were talking about the word queer.
Right.
And I just want, you know, at your age, I won't say that, at your age with your experience and my age.
What do I think about queer?
What do you think about the word queer? Because I will tell you, in my family, I was asked this question yesterday. A friend of my mom said, wasn't the word queer, isn't that a horrible thing to say?
As I pause and say, there will be as many opinions as there are people on the topic.
Right.
It has come up. I can remember when we used to have a coalition, which was an overarching organization back in the 80s, where we actually got together and met face to face, God forbid, representatives of all the groups. And this would come up, and there would be discussions about, I don't like the word queer, no, it's gay, and, you know, that's a, you know what? I think you should go with whatever you're comfortable with.
Right.
I really...
And it's always good to ask instead of assume.
Yes, I agree.
You could be called Larry or queer or anything you want,
Right.
or whatever. You know, it is self-identifying and respect.
To my older friends that endlessly complain about the changes in the community, about having to know personal pronouns or certain terms, and they'll always come up and say, well, I respect people. And my response is, if you respect people, you're going to find out what their name is.
And if they respect you, they'll be willing to tell you
as well.
You'll know it
it's
already.
It's a basic human exchange.
Exactly. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
You can view the entire film, The Words Matter, on YouTube, and we've also posted the link right there at Out Cincinnati, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we're there. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati.
This is Calvin from Landon, and you're tuned in to Out Cincinnati, streaming live on radioartifact.com.
My name is Chris, and you're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 WVXU HD2 in Cincinnati, streaming live at radioartifact.com. I am joined by Sarah, and you're going to have to forgive me, Anzoategui. Did I get it?
That's great. Oh my gosh, you did it!
Because I studied French, right? And so look at me. I could not nail the name down, and I got it. So that's why I'm not a teacher. Anyways.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Sarah is well, I want to say the full description from your bio. Non-binary, Latinx, Chicanx, actor, playwright, artivist, which is a term that's new to me, which I love. There is a show called Vita that, and your character Eddie. I mean, I'm already skipping the first question, but I'm in love with your character Eddie. Such a strong character. Tell me about Eddie and about the show. I know it's East LA. That's kind of far from us in Cincinnati here. What's the feeling of the show? What's the basis of it for folks who haven't heard about that show yet?
Well, I'm excited that I'm in Cincinnati right now. What's up, Cincinnati?
Exactly. We have amazing chili, and our bridges are falling down. No, that's it's so.
Well,
yeah.
There's great news that Vita, fans are out there or will be out there because it's something to look forward to. I mean, this show is definitely groundbreaking in every way, and for Eddie, definitely is the heart of the show. I think in ways that you can relate to the show is that there's a family involved, and also the relationships that go on, with siblings and parents and step parents. So it's a universal story of family.
And it's about
home.
It's about the sisters come back to their East LA neighborhood, and they're kind of like, if forgive the term, prettied up or not, kind of out of the neighborhood. And what happens, who is Eddie in the show, and what, I know the mother passes, and so just for folks who haven't seen the first 6 episodes.
Yes, right. So there's 2 sisters that are estranged from each other that live in different states, and their mom unexpectedly dies, so they're forced in that way to come back home to the east side of Los Angeles, where they left. So they got to face their past and also their present situation, which they uncover their mom's secrets when she dies. And one of her secrets is that she was married to me, and they did not know that she was married to or even attracted to women. So that's the one thing that they have to respond to when they meet me, the character of Eddie, and then learn that we got to share a property together. So that's something that happens in season 1, where we are all of a sudden this unit, but not everyone's excited about that except for Eddie. And Eddie's still mourning deeply for her wife that just passed away. On top of it, having to have a new family that she so deeply wants to have this connection to, and continue to have Vida be present and have her legacy live on. Yet we have this push from the 2 sisters.
Yes.
So it's a really rough, emotional roller coaster for Eddie to go through this rejection, and then having to deal with adulting, with being so low income, and the property, the bar is falling apart, in season 1. So it's really like a lot of people that understand what it's like to be a property owner or a business owner could really relate to, like, what do you do when your neighborhood's being gentrified, and you still possibly your rent might go up and all these things, and how do you continue to have your business in an ever-changing landscape? So that's definitely part of it. And gentrification itself is like a character within the character of Los Angeles. Like, they're both. It's a tension between the actual, like, Los Angeles East Side and gentrification, a monster, like, in some ways that displaces low-income, marginalized people.
That's totally
that's
true.
What it's somewhat about.
Yeah, that's gentrification. I rewatched the first episode last night. Gentrification, it is a character, and I wanted to ask you about that. In Cincinnati, we kind of have, it's a big enough city. We have some gentrification going on. It's good, it's bad. For folks who aren't aware of, East LA gentrification obviously is a thing everywhere. What's the reaction? Is the bar in the show? You can't, spoil it, but what's the road we're gonna? I don't want the bar to go away, because open bars, whatever term you want to, gay bar, LGBT bar, except they're like family.
Right.
When I grew up, I would go to one, and they'd have a potluck on Sundays, and it's like.
Right.
You just come in and help yourself and whatever. So what's down the road for the bar, if you can?
Well, I mean, Eddie's still holding on to, what the bar has meant to her and the community. And so she's definitely going to get pushed so that it stays like that and it doesn't get taken over by, the sort of gentrification, like the new wave of people that come into the neighborhood to take over and not really make it affordable for those that have been living there and forces them to leave. It is that transformation of the bar. Where does it go? That's season 2.
Absolutely.
It's like, this is what they have to decide to do, what route they're going to take. Do they want to uphold the legacy of their mother and be these entrepreneurs, or be the entrepreneurs that do this to their community? And, so it's like a sort of this duality of what road they could take, this crossroad. So, and I think a lot of people relate to it because it's something that they feel completely connected to when they watch the first episode, because they see that, whoa, I had that relationship with my mother, or I had that relationship with my sister, or, that's how my stepmother is, and I can't, all these different things and we're being surprised, I think, because the show's such great quality, but also that it's these universal stories that are happening with brown people on the screen. So that's really exciting.
What's great about what I noticed is there's so much complexity there, and I want to remind folks you're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. We are with Sarah Anzoategui. Thank you so much. I wanted to, your character Eddie identifies, as a butch lesbian, uses she pronouns. There's been a lack of characters like that and a lack of, frankly, complexity. Like, the family comes in, there's a business, who's going to take it over? And, oh, my gosh, my mom was married to Eddie. What's the societal role for that character? And there's such a weight on your shoulders to represent, if you will.
Well, it's very exciting, because there's been so many faces of what queer, butch, masculine means, and a lot of times it could be one look, one picture, and with Eddie it's including the masculine lesbian, as a main character who has these really complex feelings and is a complex person, and someone that a lot of people relate to. It's like
groundbreaking.
Someone that's humanized. And yeah, it's groundbreaking, one, and also like it humanizes that experience for others that do not understand or don't have people like Eddie in their lives and in their community. So it's something huge and bigger than I can even imagine what it's doing for people like Eddie's out there, and for the LGBTQ community, and also for Latinx people. A lot of times are excluded from the queer LGBTQ spaces, or what it means to be a feminist, or what it means to be a landowner, or what it means. So there's pictures of people assume in their head what those owners look like.
Totally.
And so this is such a great breakthrough for our narratives.
No, that is true, and I appreciate the information on. I guess I think about Queer as Folk, which is a show that I watched, and I think about a couple in there. There was never a character, forgive me, but as butch as, or just like Eddie. It's always been kind of softened, if you will. So that's just wonderful.
Yeah, or like still kind of femme.
Right, that kind of thing.
So that's really a big deal in the LGBTQ community. It's a really big, I see it as a problem, but it's like a barrier sometimes that pops up, where a lot of times the community or the audience wants to see the femme lesbian, the femme queers, but the masculine, the non-binaries, the gender benders are, it's not as, sometimes it's not as highlighted or celebrated in our community.
Right,
and it should be, because we all need to. We haven't all reached freedom yet.
And folks don't realize
we can't
that
just say, we're all free,
Right, and people can't separate, who I'm attracted to, what I look like, what I identify as. It's kind of just accept.
There's that too. Oh my gosh, I was telling some in an interview with a possible collaborator who asked me in the first interview about the way I talk about gender, and I love that because it is also educational, and there's not only so much I could do, but we're talking about it, but then out of nowhere asked me who I'm sexually attracted to in an employment situation, and I was just like, you know what? This is just wrong, because nobody that is like other identities that are in power would never accept that and would be like, you're done.
No, yeah.
You do not cross that line. But why do we have to? Just because I look like I'm the way that whatever I look to that person, which is means just because I'm butch looking, I'm masculine of center, doesn't necessarily mean I'm a lesbian or that I'm queer. And so, and it's to broadcast the world who I sleep with. Like, let me look inside your phone and see who, like that kind of stuff. But it's not something I would answer these days because I'm tired of having the conversations of my 20s that still today.
Well, yeah.
It's like, oh, we're talking about gender. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the complexities of colorism, and let's talk about, these other things and gender, and it's really exciting times. But, it's to always have to talk about sexuality as part of your gender is like,
well, it's
I'm done
annoying.
with. I think it's important for many people
because
for myself right now, it becomes exotification sometimes, but it's exciting to talk about gender and really blow people's minds. So what that could mean for them or for myself, I think is the most important part of as an actor playing this role and being who I am as an actor is to show people that young LGBTQ folks that you can look this way and be celebrated and be cast and be working and be yourself.
Right.
And just be yourself.
Let me ask you. There's one thing that I listened to an interview last night, and you were talking about just really quickly pronouns. Give me the 10-second on which pronoun you love in Spanish. I mean, as a French speaker myself, there's no pronouns, and it's coming around. But what's happening there?
Oh yeah, I totally hear you on that. Well, Latin America is really on it, and so we have a term called ella. So instead of the A and the O, because just like in French, everything's gendered, and everything's like the A or the O, the feminine, the masculine. So the gender neutral, or to also include other genders, is the E. So it's really a nice feeling when I say it. It's really hard to get used to, but people in Latin America using it a lot. It's called ella. So ella, ellos, ellas is like they, them, and I use they, them in English. Or ser. Some people just use ser. But those are my pronouns.
And that is ser is part of a verb in and of itself, right? It's kind of to be being. Right. Okay. And I want to let folks know that the second season, it's are you dropping it all at once like the first season, or is it one at a time? And it's later this month, right? On the 26th,
Well, actually, it's on the 23rd, and it's the first time we're going to have all episodes available and bingeable in one date on. Okay. So from the 23rd of May, you can binge all 10 episodes, and trust me, once you watch one, you're going to want to watch the rest of them. It's like time flies. So it's really like 5 hours altogether, but it's going to feel like 2. So it's great content that fills up. So it's not just the dialogue, it's the imagery, it's the work from all of the departments coming together to show you this beautiful tapestry that is Vida.
Absolutely, and that is on the Stars platform. I say platform, but on Stars, wherever you can get Stars.
We just won a GLAAD award for best comedy or outstanding comedy.
I forgot to mention that at the top. That is amazing. Great things. Thank you so much for coming on Out Cincinnati, Sarah Anzoategui, and have a great day. And nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Cincinnati.
Okay.
Hi, this is Mike from Northside. This is Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact, WVXU HD2.
My name is Chris, and you're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 WVXU. That's HD2 Radio Artifact. That's radioartifact.com. And I am thrilled to be joined by some neighbors to our north, Monica and Mel, co-owners of West Central Wine in Middletown. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So how's it going today? You had that really awesome event on May 3rd. What was that about, and what's coming up? And for folks that don't know the business, what is West Central Wine?
I think we've finally recovered from that. It went great. We had a fabulous time.
Sold out, right?
Western, full house. Sold out early, and look for events in the future for sure.
That's great.
It was a great fundraiser for our Middletown Pride that is coming up this summer.
When is Middletown Pride?
Middletown Pride is Friday, June 21st. Festivities start at 5. We're going to be doing a silent disco. There is going to be a big drag show and a gender-bending fashion show, as well as lots of activities for kids and families. We've got a big art show coming up, too, with the Pendleton Art Center that's one of our neighbors across the street.
That is perfect. And so that is so just for people who don't know, Middletown Pride is kind of a fairly recent thing. It's an outdoor all-day festival? Is there admission? How is your establishment connected to Pride? Were you the founders, creators? Just tell our audience who you both are when it relates to all that.
So my name is Mel, and I'm one of the owners here at West Central Wine. Last year, one of our neighbors reached out to me about 2 weeks before we did it and said, hey, it's Otto who owns the Spoken Bicycles. It's a bike shop, and they do, like, bike rides. So he said, I think we should do a Pride ride. We can decorate bikes, and we can do a little bike ride, and then we can have a party at your place afterwards. How's that sound? And I said, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of snowballed into this. I mean, everybody up and down the street was like, what can we do? We want to do something. We want to have a bake sale. We want to make buttons. And in a matter of 10 days, we had news channels here. And I'm going to say there were probably, nobody counted because we weren't ready for that. But, there were probably 2,500 people that came downtown. And it was just sort of this really magical last-minute moment. So we are planning this time. There's going to be more structured events, and we're really excited for the second annual Middletown Pride.
So
it's Friday before Cincinnati Pride.
That's important to note too. It's the Pride in Cincinnati's on the 22nd, and the Middletown version is the day before. So kind of like a kickoff, right?
Correct.
Correct. So I want to remind folks you're listening to Out Cincinnati right here on Radio Artifact. I'm talking to Monica and Mel, the co-owners of West Central Wine in Middletown. Now I want to ask, drag shows are kind of a new thing in Middletown, kind of a new thing at your business, right? Or just in general in that area.
Yeah, this is Monica. So the drag show is, I would say, probably the first of its kind in Middletown. The first one that we hosted was a collaboration with some local queens and was something that we sort of threw together, not really thinking about it, just a fun thing to offer to our customers and to bring people out who are like-minded in Middletown and surrounding areas. And it was really well attended. We had a great time, but received a little bit of feedback in the news and in the community. And so planning for our second drag show event, which was the Pride fundraiser, there was definitely a lot of created controversy around the event in Middletown.
Correct.
In particular.
I wanted to ask specifically, I read that Middletown Journal article, which I'm happy to link, and I'll link at Out Cincinnati at our Facebook page. And it's not a pointed question or anything. I just want to know, I've been to many drag shows. I know both of you have. I'm assuming you're familiar,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Okay,
definitely.
so let's just say
anyone who's likes to have a good time has been to a drag show.
Exactly. So like I was talking to a family member, and I've been kind of on that family member's I want to take you to a drag show. I promise it's fun. In general, why should people come to a drag show except for the fact that it's a just that it's fun? What would you tell people who've never been? What could they expect? Because that article, and I saw some comments on Facebook, it was like, okay, this is not a strip show. This is not, nude, burlesque. It's drag.
Right.
Drag performers perform for dollar bills. That's every drag show I've been to, unless it's like happens to be a rule that night. So how do you get folks who've never been, who don't know, who see the word LGBT or gay or pride and say, oh, that's not for me because I'm not gay?
Well, I think that's one of the things that I've always struggled with being out, is that sort of disassociation of the over-sexualized part of the LGBT world and, just the normal everyday activities of all of us. And so my mom comes to this drag show. She'd never been to a drag show before. And I was like, you've never been to a drag show? I've never taken you to a drag show? And she's like, no, I don't know what to do. And I said, give me a $20 bill. You need some ones. If they do something that makes you laugh, give them some money,
Right.
And so for me, it's an interactive experience and an opportunity to really sort of break down those walls, an opportunity for us to show our straight friends and, the straight members of our community who've never been but are a little curious,
Right.
in a safe place, that this is not something to be afraid of. This is just good old fun,
And I think that,
sorry, go ahead.
adding to that, just about West Central Wine in general, that we are a place that is friendly, but is not a place that you would necessarily look or consider as a gay bar or a place where a drag show would happen. So it's sort of in breaking down those barriers and creating a place that doesn't already have that stereotype, I guess. I think that that's the advantage we have to connect with all parts of the community, because we're not specifically one thing or another.
Exactly. I wanted to remind folks that talking to Monica and Mel, co-owners of West Central Wine, up in Middletown, and talking about drag shows. My question, I'm in my 30s. I love to go to a bar occasionally, but I like to sit down and order food. That's possible during a drag show, right? You don't just have to get drunk and tip. It's not just that.
Depending on the situation and the services offered, we do grilled cheese all the time. So I hope people don't think that, it's solely a drinking event.
Right, and I didn't mean to say that. I just my kind of thing is like, I want to have a place to sit. I want to be able to get a cold drink and like a bite and not have to like stand all night.
So the format here is a little bit different. We're not, like I said, a bar that is suited for drag shows. We don't have a lot of drag shows. We don't have a stage. For the events that we had, we brought in extra lighting and sound and that sort of thing to recreate that experience here, but, in more of a casual atmosphere where there are high-top tables and big communal tables where people can enjoy the experience, but also have a little bit of food and wine, and it was a little bit more interactive than, say, an experience where you've got a pool system and a stage, and it's really set up for what we did.
Yeah, it reminded me of sort of more like a lounge act, because the performers were able to work through the crowd and in and out of the crowd, and that was fun to see. That was really fun.
And it reminds me of when I would go to a jazz club. If I can liken it to that, I go to a jazz club. I can order food. I can order a drink. I can not ignore the show, but I can talk to folks if I want next to me, and it's cool. It's really relaxed, and it sounds like it's that way up there at West Central Wine. I want to encourage folks to check out. You can check out more information at our Facebook page at Out Cincinnati. And then, do you both have a Facebook page?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. We're active on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter to get more information about upcoming events from us, about what we do, and who we are. Okay,
and you can just that blue bar at the top on Facebook. I always direct folks because that is like my magic thing. I just typed in West Central Wine, and I was there. So I want to thank you both for joining us today, Monica and Mel on Out Cincinnati. You're listening to 91.7 WVXU HD2 in Cincinnati. It's radioartifact.com.
This is Rose from Hamilton. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact.
Well, that about wraps it up for Out Cincinnati, and I can see the look of relief. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's the look of disappointment.
Until next Saturday, when we'll talk to more amazing people. I want to thank, still sitting across from us, thank you, Michael, for being here, for Sarah, for talking to us about Vita. Check that out because it's available, and you can watch Vita all you want. Binge watch that new season that's coming out. And thank you so much to Monica and Mel for coming and talking about Middletown Pride, their wonderful business, West Central Wine up in Middletown. You can check that out. And until next week, I'm Chris.
And I'm Melissa.
And this is Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU right here in Cincinnati.